The crystal flute shattered against the marble floor, champagne foaming like unspoken rage across the penthouse rug. "You're too old for me, Vivian," Marcus snarled, his voice a blade honed by boardroom victories, eyes already drifting to the shadow of Elise in the doorway, her laughter a silken taunt. "Sign it. End this charade." The papers trembled in her grip, 15 years of whispered promises dissolving into ink. But as the pen met page, her lips curved, not in defeat, but in a smile that promised storms. "Thank you," she breathed, voice velvet over steel, "for the freedom I didn't know I craved." That moment, my friends, when the man who vowed forever reveals his mask, it's the crack where empires rise from ashes. You've felt it, haven't you? That gut wrench of betrayal when love's warmth turns to ice, leaving you questioning every touch, every dawn shared in tangled sheets. When the partner you built a life with confesses he's been chasing youth's fleeting glow, how do you rebuild trust in your own skin, your own fire? What if forgiveness hid not in his remorse, but in the lover who sees your scars as constellations? Stick with me, because Vivian's rebirth, it scorches. If tales of desire reclaimed light your soul, smash that like button now and drop into the comments. What's the boldest move you've made after heartbreak? New here, Yen, hit subscribe. Let's journey into love's fierce revival together. You won't want to miss her glow. Welcome back, lovers of the heart's wild pulse. If Vivian's defiant smile stirred something deep in you, lean in closer. This is where the flames first flicker. Let's slip into that penthouse night where love's fragile thread snaps and a woman's quiet power begins to uncoil. The air in the dining room hung thick with the scent of orchids Vivian had arranged herself that afternoon, their petals unfurling like secrets she hoped tonight might coax from Marcus. 40 candles waited on the cake, flames unlit, their wax pristine against the vanilla swirl she'd perfected in the kitchen hours earlier. Sweat beading on her brow, not from heat, but from the ache of anticipation. She'd chosen the black lace dress for its whisper against her skin, the way it traced the dip of her waist, the full swell of her hips. Reminders to herself that time had sculpted, not eroded, her form. Marcus had once called her his eternal muse, his fingers mapping those same curves in the dim glow of hotel suites after closing deals that built his billions. But as the clock struck 8, the door didn't bring flowers or his familiar cologne. It brought Elise, all golden waves and ambition-wetted eyes, her arm looped through his like a vine claiming a trellis. "Vivian," Marcus said, voice clipped as he shrugged off his coat. "We need to talk." She poured wine, hands steady despite the tremor in her chest, offering glasses they ignored. "Happy birthday to me, then?" Her tone danced on the edge of lightness, but his jaw tightened, that telltale flex she'd learned to dread in their later years. He slid the envelope across the polished oak, the leather creaking under his grip. "It's over. Sign." The words on the page blurred, irreconcilable differences, equitable distribution, but his voice cut clearer. "You're too old for me, Viv. This life I lead, it's relentless. I need someone with vitality. Elise understands the grind, the late nights that turn into mornings." Elise shifted, her heel catching the rug, a soft flush creeping up her neck. Not shame, but the thrill of victory claimed. Vivian's throat tightened, memories crashing like waves. Their honeymoon in Tuscany, his mouth hot on her throat under olive boughs, body slick and urgent against sun-warmed stone. The way he'd grown her name in the shower, water cascading as she knelt before him, taking him deep with a reverence that made him shatter. Had that fire dimmed, or had he simply looked away? "Vitality," she echoed, the word tasting like ash. "Is that what you call chasing skirts half your age?" Elise's laugh tinkled, forced. "It's not like that. Marcus deserves—" "Save it," Vivian cut in, pen in hand. The ink flowed smooth, each loop of her name a severance. No tears, no pleas, just the steady scratch that filled the silence. Marcus watched, brow furrowed, expecting the breakdown he'd scripted in his mind. When she finished pushing the papers back, his relief was palpable, shoulders easing. "Good. The prenup holds. You'll have the condo, a settlement, enough to coast. No need for ugliness." She rose, the dress shifting like a second skin, and met his gaze level. "Ugliness? You brought that here tonight." To Elise, "Enjoy the view from his shadow. It gets cold up there alone." They left amid awkward murmurs, the door sealing their exit with finality. Vivian stood motionless, the city's hum rising through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a symphony of lives colliding below while hers fractured above. She lit one candle, its flame dancing solitary, and whispered to the empty room. What now? The wax dripped, sealing her resolve, not broken but bending toward light. But dawn brought no solace, only the echo of his dismissal. As she packed a single bag, fingers lingering on the silk scarves he'd gifted in better days, tokens of passion now tainted, her phone buzzed. A London number. The voice on the line, crisp with accent, carried news that shifted the ground beneath her. Mrs. Hale, your great Aunt Beatrice left everything to you. An empire worth 600 million. She said you were the only one fierce enough to wield it. Vivian's breath caught, a spark igniting in the hollow of her chest. Beatrice, wild, unapologetic, who danced through lovers and losses with a laugh like thunder. This wasn't pity. It was a crown, forged in fire. The fog clung to the bay like a lover reluctant to leave as Vivian stepped from the cab, the lawyer's office, a sleek monolith piercing the mist. Inside, the air hummed with polished leather and quiet power, much like Beatrice's own drawing rooms in the stories she'd spun over late-night calls. Vivian had flown commercial, a deliberate humility, her body still humming from the divorce's aftershocks. Nights where sleep evaded her, hands wandering her own skin in search of the affirmation Marcus had withheld. Mr. Ellis, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, rose to greet her. Ms. Hale, Beatrice was adamant. Vivian's the heir to my hunger, she wrote. No contingencies. He slid the dossier across the desk. Deeds to sun-drenched vineyards in Provence, where grapes burst with the essence of forbidden trysts, galleries in Milan stocked with erotic bronzes, figures locked in eternal caress, portfolios swelling with tech stakes and art auctions. The total? 600 million, a number that made her pulse stutter, not from greed, but from the weight of possibility. A sealed envelope bore her name in Beatrice's looping script. Vivian's fingers trembled as she broke the wax, the paper unfolding like a lover's robe. My darling wildfire, it began. I watched you dim for that fool, folding your blaze to fit his narrow world. This fortune? It's kindling. Burn bright, seduce empires, lovers, yourself. Remember Capri, 72, that count who worshipped your every curve under moonlight? Chase that hunger again. Men like Marcus fear women who know their own taste. Yours in eternal flame, Beatrice. Tears blurred the ink, hot and unbidden. Capri, Beatrice's tales of moonlit romps, bodies oiled and urgent against cliff-side stones, her laughter mingling with waves. Vivian had listened wide-eyed, yearning for such abandon, only to settle for Marcus's measured affections. Now the words ignited something primal, a warmth pooling low in her belly, stirring neglected desires. Thank you, she murmured to the empty air, as if Beatrice could hear. Ellis cleared his throat. She included advisors, discreet ones for personal matters. Trust to shield from ex-spouses. Vivian nodded, mind racing, not just wealth, but armor. Back in her hotel overlooking the bridge's glow, she stripped before the mirror, tracing the lines Beatrice had loved. The soft give of her thighs, the peak of her breasts still firm with invitation. For the first time in years, her touch lingered, fingers circling slowly, breath hitching as pleasure built. Not frantic, but exploratory, a dialogue with her reflection. Release came soft, shuddering, leaving her curled in sheets that smelled of possibility. The flight home blurred into plans. Vesper Vine retreats where women like her, 40 and fierce, reclaimed sensuality amid vines and velvet nights. No more embers, ablaze, seductive and sovereign. But Marcus's shadow lingered. A text from Lena. He's bragging at the club. Says you crumbled. Want me to spill? Vivian's reply. Let him. My silence is the spark. Pacific Heights welcomed Vivian with salt-laced breezes. Her new apartment a sanctuary of light and linen. No echoes of Marcus's stark minimalism. She dove into Vesper Vine with the fervor of a woman tasting air after drowning. Beatrice's funds flowing like wine into soil. The Napa Pilot Vineyard came first. Rolling hills where Cabernet vines twisted like lovers' limbs, their leaves rustling secrets to the wind. Vivian walked those rows at dusk, soil crumbling under heels, imagining women here, bodies bared to starlight, guided by experts in touch's ancient language. The website launched with whispers, shadowed images of silk-draped forms, taglines promising awaken where earth meets ecstasy. Invitations went to select circles, executives weary of boardroom chill, artists starved for muse. Bookings trickled, then surged, each deposit a validation humming through her veins. Lena crashed the first tasting, feet up on Vivian's desk, swirling Merlot. This isn't business, Viv. It's foreplay for the soul. They laughed, but Lena's eyes sharpened. Marcus knows. His spies in the wine world are buzzing. Poached your Napa supplier yesterday, offered triple. Vivian's grip tightened on her stemware, the ruby liquid mirroring her resolve. Triple? Cute. Buy the bastard out. By week's end, the supplier was hers, vineyards expanding like desire unchecked. But Marcus struck back. Anonymous tips to vintners, whispers of her desperation post-divorce. One partner called, voice oily. Heard you're funding this with settlement scraps. Risky, sweetheart. She met him at a waterfront bistro, dressed a cascade of crimson that hugged her like a promise. Scraps? She purred, leaning in, the neckline dipping to reveal the lace edge beneath. Darling, I'm the vintage you can't afford to miss. Her words wove seduction. Not sales, promises of retreats where deals dissolved into dances, bodies sinking to rhythms older than contracts. He signed, mesmerized, and Vivian felt the thrill of power's caress, a heat uncoiling low. Nights alone tested her. After a strategy call, she poured Beatrice's rosé, the bottle's curve evoking hips under moonlight. Slipping into a robe that grazed her skin like a lover's breath, she reclined on the chaise, fingers tracing collarbone to navel, dipping lower. The touch was tentative at first, longing for the weight of another's gaze. But memory fueled her. Marcus's early ardor, now tainted, morphing into visions of hands rougher, eyes hungrier. She arched, breath ragged, circling that aching core until waves crested, leaving her gasping, skin flushed. Vulnerability bloomed in the afterglow. Not shame, but hunger for a partner to share this fire. The first retreat dawned golden. 20 women gathered under Napa oaks, linens flowing as instructors led them through breathwork, inhales deep as a kiss, exhales surrendering to touch. Vivian watched from the terrace, hearts swelling at their tentative smiles turning bold, bodies swaying in partnered explorations, hands gliding oiled paths, gasps mingling with birdsong. One guest, a divorcee like her, pulled Vivian into a circle. You've given us permission to feel, she whispered, their fingers interlacing. But conflicts shadowed triumph. Marcus's conglomerate leased a Soma tower, hers now, via shell trusts. The rent notice landed, quadrupled, fees layered like lovers' claims. His call came furious. Vivian, this is war. Undo it or I'll bury your little fantasy. She paced her office, phone warm against her ear. War? You declared it on my birthday, remember? With papers and her perfume on your collar. A pause, his breath heavy. Come on. We were good once. That night in Aspen, snow falling, you beneath me, moaning my name like a prayer. Desire flickered, traitorous, but she crushed it. Good, you mean convenient. Enjoy the climb, Marcus. The view from the bottom sharpens perspective. She hung, pulse thundering, and texted Lena, first retreat sold out, vintners next. As vines fruited under her hand, so did her resolve, sweet, intoxicating, ready for the press. The missions gallery thrummed with low jazz and the clink of glasses, air scented with audacieux and possibility. Vivian had come for inspiration, artists to grace Vesper's walls, forms that captured rebirth's raw edge. She lingered before Julian's piece, a woman forged from obsidian and gold, emerging from molten core, her pose a gasp frozen in time, back arched, lips parted, as if mid-ecstasy's crest. Obsidian remembers heat, a voice rumbled, close enough to stir the fine hairs on her neck. It holds the fire that shaped it. She turned and desire struck like flint on steel. Julian Reyes, broad-shouldered, his shirt sleeves rolled to expose forearms corded from chisel's bite, dark eyes holding storms and secrets. A faint scar traced his jaw, inviting lips to follow. It tells a story, she replied, voice dipping low, of breaking to become unbreakable. He smiled, slow as dawn over vines, stepping into her space without crowding, cedar and clay enveloping her. Julian. And you? What fire shapes you? Vivian Hale. Their hands met, his calluses a delicious rasp against her palm, sending warmth curling up her arm. They wandered the exhibit, words flowing like wine. His tales of quarries where stone whispered under moon, her confessions of Vesper's birth from betrayal's ashes. He called me fated, she admitted, gaze on a sculpture's entwined limbs. But 40 feels like peak bloom. Julian's fingers brushed her wrist, light as a vow. Faded? You're luminous. Like this? He nodded to a bronze couple, bodies fused in urgent lean. Mid-dance, not end. Heat bloomed between her thighs, his proximity a magnetic pull. By closing, the crowd thinned, but their orbit tightened. Dinner? He asked, thumb foul grazing her pulse point. Or do I let the night claim you alone? Her laugh was breathy. Claim me? Bold chisel. The taqueria was dim, candlelit, tacos steaming between them. Mezcal loosened tongues. His stories of Rome's ruins evoked touches amid Colosseum shadows. Her Vesper dreams painted with sensual strokes, women tracing each other's forms in vineyard twilight. Vulnerability crept in over dessert. After him, she said, tracing his knuckles, touch felt like transaction. Now I crave the real currency. His eyes darkened, hand covering hers. Then trade with me. The walk to her door blurred, tension coiling like a spring. At threshold, he cupped her nape, thumb stroking the sensitive hollow. Say stop, Vivian, or open. She pulled him across, door thudding shut. Their kiss ignited, lips parting fierce, tongues tangling in exploration, his hands framing her face as if she were marble to cherish. She tasted salt and hunger, pressing close, breasts yielding against his chest. He groaned, backing her to the wall, mouth trailing fire down her throat, nipping the pulse that raced for him. God, your skin, he murmured, hands sliding under her dress, palms rough on thighs, hiking fabric to expose lace. She gasped as fingers found her damp heat, stroking through silk with deliberate pressure. So ready, let me taste. He knelt, dress pooling, mouth replacing fingers, tongue flat and slow against her core, then circling that swollen pearl with exquisite precision. Vivian's knees buckled, fingers fisting his hair, hips rocking into the velvet pull. Pleasure built, relentless, her cries echoing as she shattered, thighs quivering around him. Rising, he shed clothes, body a landscape of muscle and ink, arousal straining, thick and insistent. She stroked him, velvet over steel, drawing a hiss. Now, she demanded, guiding him home. He thrust deep, filling her utterly, their rhythm a symphony of skin on skin, gasps blending. He pinned her wrists above, angling to stroke that inner spark, her walls clenching as release claimed them both, his heat flooding her impulses, her name a reverent chant on his lips. Collapsed, entwined, he traced her spine. Stay the night in my arms? She nodded, fulfillment's glow chasing shadows. But dawn whispered warnings. Empires waited, and hearts, once scarred, mended slow. Weeks wove Julian into Vivian's rhythm like a thread of gold through silk. Mornings tangled in sheets, his mouth waking her with lazy kisses that trailed south, tongue delving lazy circles until she arched, fingers clawing pillows, release blooming, soft and shared. You're my dawn, he'd murmur, sliding home in languid thrusts, their bodies sinking to birdsong beyond the windows. Vesper thrived under her gaze, retreats filling with women who left glowing, testimonials of rediscovered desire flooding inboxes. Yet Marcus's barbs pierced the idol. His poach of a Milan gallery partner stalled expansion. Whispers in wine circles branded Vesper divorcee's delusion. Lena stormed Vivian's office one afternoon, heels clicking fury. He's rallying old allies, says you're unstable. Midlife mirage. Fight back? Vivian leaned into Julian that evening, his arms a harbor as they cooked paella, steam rising like desire's haze. Unstable? After he gutted me? Her voice cracked, vulnerability surfacing, longing for the unscarred passion they'd chased in youth. He turned her, flour-dusted hands cupping her face. Your steady fire, Amor. Let me stoke it. His kiss deepened, urgent, lifting her to the counter, dress rucked up as fingers hooked lace aside. He entered her there, slow and deep, each rock of his hips a affirmation, thumb circling her peak, drawing moans that mingled with sizzling pans. She wrapped legs tight, nails scoring his back, climax crashing as he followed, breath ragged against her neck. See? Unbreakable. But doubt lingered, a thorn in fulfillment. At a Vesper gala, crystal flutes and gowns swirling like petals in wind, Marcus cornered her amid vineyard projections. Impressive charade, Viv. But Elise left. Come back. We reignited once, remember? That weekend in Tahoe, your body undermined by the fire, begging. Heat flushed her cheeks, conflict twisting, old longing clashing with new flame. Begging? I was loving. Now you're echo, not essence. She walked away, heart pounding, straight into Julian's arms on the terrace. Stars wheeled above, city lights winking below. You're shaken, he said, pulling her close, lips brushing temple. She confessed over the railing, voice raw. He tempts the ghost of us. What if I'm chasing shadows, not substance? Julian's hands roamed her back, possessive yet tender, unzipping her gown with reverence. The fabric whispered down, pooling at feet, leaving her bared to night air in his gaze. Shadows? Feel this. He knelt again, mouth hot on her belly, trailing lower, tongue parting folds, lapping with fervent strokes that arched her against iron. Fingers joined, curling to that secret spot, building tension until she trembled. Release tearing a sob from her throat. Rising, he shed his tux, arousal proud. Look at me, wanting you, all of you. He turned her to face the view, entering from behind, low, claiming thrusts that synced with her gasps, one hand splayed on her abdomen, the other teasing breasts, pinching peaks to sparks. Vulnerability peaked as she met his eyes in the reflection. His storm meeting her blaze. They crested together, his warmth spilling deep, her body milking every pulse. Collapsed in his lap, she whispered, You anchor me. He kissed her crown. And you free me. Hey, beautiful souls tuning in. If Vivian's dance between old wounds and new passion mirrors your own tango with love, pause here. Like if you've ever chosen fire over flicker, share in comments what healed your heart's ache, and subscribe for more tales where desire rewrites destiny. Your stories fuel ours. Let's keep the glow alive. Expansion beckoned. Provence Villa acquired. Retreats infused with Julian's sculptures. Bronze lovers guarding sacred spaces. But Marcus's next volley loomed. A scandal scripted in shadows. Thunder cracked over the bay as Vivian's phone lit with alerts. Headlines screaming Vesper Vine. Divorce fury or financial facade. Marcus's leak, doctored ledgers painting her empire as embezzled scraps, investors painted as dupes. The boardroom fell silent as she paced, rain lashing windows like accusations. Confront him, Lena urged, voice steel. End this. Vivian's heels echoed through Hale Dynamics' tower, security parting like waves before a prow. Marcus's office sprawled panoramic, city bowed below. He rose, smirk fading at her fury. Viv, dramatic entrance. You forged ruin from lies, she hissed, dossier slamming down. For what? To drag me back into your cage? He circled, cologne-stirring ghosts, nights when that scent mingled with sweat, his body covering hers in urgent claim. Cage? I built us. You squander it on hedonism. Elise saw reason. You could too. His hand grazed her arm, thumb stroking vein, an echo of intimacy, igniting conflict's cruel spark. Longing flickered, vile and vivid, his weight pinning her once, thrust desperate after arguments. Release a fragile truce. She jerked free, breath shallow. Hedonism, I built freedom. You peddle control. Storm raging outside mirrored her turmoil, vulnerability cracking, tears hot as she fled, rain soaking gown to skin. Julian found her on the terrace, drenched and defiant. He touched the wound, she confessed, shivering in his coat. Made me question if I'm worthy of this, of us. His eyes blazed, pulling her under awning. Worthy? Let the rain wash his doubt. He stripped her wet silk, body gleaming under flashes, hands mapping chilled curves with heated palms. Feel your power. Mouth claimed breast, sucking deep, teeth grazing to elicit gasps that drown thunder. Fingers delved between thighs, finding her slick despite chill, stroking folds, plunging to curl against that ridge. Thumb on pearl in relentless rhythm. Vivian moaned, back arching against pillar, rain kissing exposed skin. Julian, please. He lifted her, legs wrapping waist, entering with thrust that seated him fully. Hot, unyielding, hips snapping in counterpoint to downpour. Each drive built urgency. her nails raking his shoulders, his free hand pinning hip to deepen angle, hitting sparks that coiled tight. Vulnerability poured out in cries, "Don't let me break!" Met by his vow, "You mend me." Climax shattered her, walls pulsing around him, drawing his roar as he spilled, heat grounding her in Storm's heart. They sank to cushions, entwined, lightning etching their forms. "He can't touch this," Julian breathed, fingers tracing her jaw. "Our fire burns eternal." Lawyers dismantled the fraud by dawn. Marcus's board fracturing, shares tumbling. Vesper rose Phoenix strong, Provence Villa hosting inaugural international retreat. Women in candle-lit baths, bodies oiled and exploring under expert guidance. Moans weaving with harp strings. Vivian led a session, voice steady. Desire isn't shame, it's sovereignty. Fulfillment edged closer, but twists awaited. Julian's past lover surfacing, a sculptor rival whispering doubts. "He carves hearts like stone," the woman texted. Conflict renewed. Could Vivian trust this blaze not to consume? Provence enveloped Vesper like a lover's embrace. Lavender fields swaying under azure skies. Villa walls echoing with women's liberated laughter. Vivian's empire crested. Retreats booked years out. Partnerships with Milanese ateliers blending art and arousal. Bronze limbs adorning chambers where guests traced each other in shadowed play. Revenue soared, but sweeter was the mail. Letters of lives remade, desires rekindled. Julian wove deeper, his presence a constant hum. Sketches of her sleeping form pinned to studio walls, bodies colliding in vineyard alcoves. His mouth devouring her under grape-heavy arbors, fingers pinning wrists as he thrust with Earth's primal rhythm. Her cries scaring birds to flight. "You're my masterpiece," he'd growl post-climax, tracing bite marks on her throat like signatures. Yet vulnerability tested them. His ex, Sophia, a fiery ceramist, arrived unannounced at the villa, eyes raking Vivian. "He always chased novelty," she sneered over espresso. "You'll crack under his chisel." Doubt gnawed that night as Julian sketched by firelight. "Am I rebound or revelation?" Vivian asked, voice small. He set charcoal aside, drawing her to lap. Gown shed, her astride him, slow descent onto his length, eyes locked in raw honesty. Hands on hips guided her roll, building friction that drew gasps. His thumb joined, circling to heighten spark. "Revelation," he vowed, thrusting up to meet her, pace quickening to frenzy, breasts bouncing, his mouth latching peak, sucking as she clenched. Release crashing mutual, his seed-marking claim deep within. Sophia departed, exposed as bitterness, not truth. Triumph followed. Vesper's global launch in Milan, catwalks of silk and stone where models embodied rebirth. Amid ruins post-show, Julian knelt amid ivy-choked columns, ring glinting, Beatrice's gold twisted with obsidian. "Marry me, Vivian. Let's etch forever. Desire, dreams, us. Tears, blurred stars." "Yes," she breathed, pulling him up into kiss that reignited. Against ancient wall, his hands hiking skirts, fingers plunging to prepare, then thrust home, urgent and affirming. Stone bit her back as he drove deep, leg hooked high for angle that stroked fire. Her heel dug thigh, urging faster, climax a shared quake under moon's witness. The third call echoes now, darlings. If Julian's proposal melted you like wax under flame, share below. What's your dream vow, whispered in passion's hush. Like for more heart fires, subscribe to never miss the blaze. Years beckoned. Wedding in Napa Vines, guests toasting their union with Vesper blends. Marcus's fall complete, ousted, scrambling for scraps. Yet Vivian spared no glance back. Fulfillment in Julian's gaze. Their nights a symphony of touch and truth. 5 years sculpted Vivian and Julian into legend. Vesper a constellation of sanctuaries, from Tokyo onsen to Santorini coves. Women worldwide shedding skins for souls aflame. Their marriage? A living canvas, homes in Provence and Pacific Heights, bodies mapping each other anew. Lazy Sundays where he'd blindfold her, feathers and ice tracing paths to quivers, mouth following to lap responses, her atop in dawn light, riding slow to savor every inch, fulfillment in his surrender beneath. At 45, Vivian commanded a Paris gala, chandeliers dripping light like desire's dew, gowns whispering against legs. Vesper's milestone, scholarships for dreamers, walls lined with Julian's evolutions, her form eternal, radiant in repose and rapture. She moved through admirers, Julian's hand low on her back, thumb circling possessively, stirring embers. Then Marcus, gaunt, eyes hollowed by losses, emerged from shadows, flute trembling. Vivian, voice cracked, suit ill-fit like discarded skin. You've become a goddess. She paused, heart steady, Julian's presence a shield. Memories flashed, birthdays blade, his touch once craved now foreign. Goddess? Echo soft, laced with old ache. I was always flame, Marcus. You mistook it for wick. He swallowed, gaze tracing her, curves honed by yoga and years, skin glowing from Julian's worship. I was blind. Elise fled with the wreckage. Board buried me. Seeing you, it's justice, but damn, it burns. Conflict stirred faint, longing for the boy he'd been, before billions bent him, but fulfillment drowned it. Burns teach, she said, voice velvet. I forgave long ago, for me. Find your light elsewhere. He nodded, fading into crowd, a ghost eclipsed. Julian drew her to dance floor, bodies aligning seamless, his thigh between hers, subtle pressure, evoking private rhythms. Proud? He whispered, lips grazing ear. Utterly. Hand slipped to his nape, pulling into shadowed alcove. Gown hiked, his fingers deft under lace, plunging to curl, thumb on that pearl, drawing muffled moan as guests swirled oblivious. Need you, she breathed. He obliged, freeing himself to enter swift. Thrusts measured to music swell, her back to wall, leg hooked for depth. Pleasure coiled tight, vulnerability in his gaze. My everything, unleashing waves that milked him, release silent but seismic, heat binding them anew. Back among lights, she shone, empress of her forging. Moral whispered in toasts. Betrayal's gift? Wings, if claimed. Paris's afterglow lingered as Vivian and Julian wandered St. Banks, fingers laced, city breathing around them like a shared sigh. Vesper's legacy pulsed global, foundations lifting women from ashes, retreats birthing bonds that outlasted lovers' quarrels. Their life? A tapestry of tender conquests, anniversaries in Monaco villas, bodies slick on terraces, his tongue mapping every curve till she begged, then taking her slow against railings, waves crashing counterpoint, quiet nights where vulnerability reigned, confessions traded mid-embrace, thrusts pausing for eyes to affirm souls. At 50, Vivian reflected in Provence mirrors, not faded but deepened, lines etching stories of desire undimmed. Julian, silver-threaded, still knelt in passion's name, their intimacy a language refined. Her astride in candle flicker grinding to mutual peak, his hands worshipping breasts as if first sight, him behind in shower steam, fingers laced overhead, entering with water's rhythm till fulfillment sealed them. Breathless vows renewed. The reckoning's echo. Marcus faded to footnote, remarried modestly, echoes of apology and charity nods to Vesper causes. No triumph in his humility, only Vivian's quiet grace. Forgiveness is freedom, not chain. And the lesson, my radiant ones, love's true alchemy transmutes discard to daimon. Betrayal the forge where self-love tempers blade-sharp worth. When he deemed you too old, too spent, smile as she did, not defeat, but dawn. Reclaim your fire. Let it draw the worthy, who fan not flicker. Desire is an age's thief, its rebirth's bold architect. Build empires of touch, vulnerability your mortar, fulfillment the spire. You've endured fractures, now flourish. If Vivian's arc ignited your own rebirth, that defiant smile, the lover's blaze, pour it out below. What's one fire you'll fan brighter today? Like if her triumph touched your core. Share with a heart needing wings. Comment your boldest love leap and subscribe. Join our circle of stories that seduce the soul. Bell on, for next we dive into whispers of second chances under starlit vows. You're seen, you're fierce, you're loved, until the next flame calls.